I wanted to just record this intro before the gig. So I'm taking my Mesa Boogie Mark V 25, partly for size reasons. I grabbed one of these because this isn't going to give me a back issue, and also it's got that cab clone out, which Rob Chapman can't get a good sound out of, but other people can. Alright, Rob. Anyway, so that's what I'm taking. I'm going to use the Mesa Boogie little open back cabinet, compact size, with an EVM 12 speaker in it, 200 watt speaker, so it should be, I'm hoping, loud enough. This is obviously a 25 watt thing, so obviously wattage isn't the whole story. You know, like a 30 watt Vox is going to be plenty loud for any gig. I'm hoping this is going to be loud enough. The master volume, I've really only ever turned it up sort of like a third of the way, so I'm hoping it should be fine. And then this is the bag that goes with it, and I'm going to be using the HX effects in the loop, and also switching the amp channels, and delay reverb is coming from here. So hopefully I'll get Liana, my assistant, to take some video of various bits of the gig, and I'll report back how I get on with it. And I guess the things that I want to know is, will it be loud enough? Is it going to be fun? And is it going to sound decent? And is it going to be easy to carry around? If it performs all those things, and can it go direct to desk and sound okay out front of house? If it can do all those things, happy days. Probably about the size of a Kemper. Does it sound better than that? I'm going to try and find out on a gig. Cheers. So it's now the morning after, and I've had some time to reflect, and I've just checked some of the videos and stuff that my assistant took for me, and I think overall on the gig I wasn't necessarily loving it. I felt like things seemed a little bit barky from where I was standing, but when I listened to the video back, I'm quite enjoying the sounds that are coming out of that. Let me know if you thought that sounded half decent, or if that sounded whatever. Not sure if it sounds markedly better than sort of tones that I might have got out of a modeler and a power cab in that situation. But the kind of really cool thing about this is that it's small enough and light enough that it doesn't really feel like I've lugged a massive amp to a gig, and I don't really feel silly with it in a way that potentially I might do if I'd taken a Mesa Boogie Lone Star to a gig. In some ways I think some sound people and people at these gigs can look at you a bit odd these days if you take anything but like a Kemper or a modeler or whatever. Really like that. I actually think the cab clone out is super useful, especially on this type of gig where, you know, you might not have time to set up festivals or stuff like that or whatever, and where they expect you just to quickly do whatever. I do think that that will sound better than a hastily placed SM57 potentially, and you're not having that issue of potentially on-stage feedback. It's also plenty loud enough. The volumes I didn't really take above sort of 33% of the way up, so it does have quite a bit of volume, especially into that as an EVM 12 speaker, as I say. The way that I'm using it, I use the EQ as the boost for the solo tones, and then I try and dial in the tone with the rhythm, slightly less mids and slightly less bass as well, and slightly less volume. So that's the way that I was doing that, and on my HX effects I was switching between snapshots, which sent a message to here, have a clean or the dirty, or the dirty with the EQ. And what's really cool about this versus some of the other Mark amps is that you've got a master volume for both the clean and the dirty channel, and no shared controls there, which is, I think, something that they moved along to with the Mark IV and Mark V, but with the earlier Mark series amps you do tend to have to do a little bit of compromising, and I don't think it would be as easy to kind of match those volumes in a pinch as it is with the Mark V 25. And I'm wondering, maybe part of my issue with any kind of thing that I'm using, whether it's modelling or with a real amp, is that to have a really fun time you do need, I think, quite a bit of stage volume. And then that's a compromise, you know, will you be creating too much stage volume for other people to be comfortable? Like, there's no reason I think that you should be kind of as loud as a drummer, but you do probably want to be able to hear what's coming from the amp alongside your drummer, I'm guessing. But your sound guy may not want you punting that much volume out of the stage, you know, and some venues these days, like weddings and stuff like that, you may have a sound limiter, in which case you don't want to be pumping out excess volume. So yeah, I'm not sure if the amp is the premier solution for a lot of us kind of jobbing musicians anymore, and I think that's kind of why modelling has become a thing, because in some ways it's kind of inconvenient to take a big amp, especially if people are going to look at you funny and they're then going to tell you to turn way down. My kind of premier thing on this, the cleans, I was really loving the sound of on stage and the feel of that, and plenty of bass kicking out from it, which you wouldn't necessarily expect from a Mark V 25. The settings, you can see that I've got the bass cranked fairly high because I'm using single coils, the gain at about 11, treble halfway, mids I got pushed to about 6, and I'm using it in fat mode, which I really like. So yeah, overall I think fairly happy with it. Would I choose this over a modeler? I'm not sure. There's not really the versatility that you get with a modeler, and also with something like an Axe FX or FM3 or Helix, I feel like you can get pretty close to these tones anyway with a power cab, and the issue becomes then convenience. But using this with an HX effect, I'm going to try it again because I did have quite a bit of fun with it, and getting things like feedback from it, if you want like useful feedback, was fairly straightforward. And I think maybe there's some more dialing in that I could do to get even better things, and maybe a gain stage in front of it as well could be a thing. But yeah, overall pretty happy with it, so I think I'll hang on to it for a bit longer. I think I have to listen to that. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've got one of these and you dig it. Let me know if you had one of these and didn't get on with it. Let's just hash it out in the comments, I guess. I think it's useful for people to see reviews that aren't necessarily paid for or aren't necessarily biased in some way, and to have that kind of discourse about people. You know, if you're a gigging musician like a lot of us are, did this work for you, or was it lacking in some ways? I think it's fairly fully featured compared to a lot of amps. You know, with the EQ, 2 channels, foot switching, foot switchable EQ, I think it's got quite a lot to offer. Yeah, catch you in another video soon. Hopefully that was vaguely interesting, and if you wanted to like and subscribe you could, but no one is going to twist your arm on that.